Welcome back to the Dot course, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to take user inputs. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a new dot file and call this 9_inputs. After that, let's go ahead and create our main method. Right, and I hope you remember what inputs are, but let me just give you a quick recap. It's a way to include code written by others in order for you not to repeat the code again, right? So right now we're going to be importing this package called dart.io. Import dart and then io. Right, so after you've got that, we're gonna start taking inputs from the user. So what are inputs? I'm sure for those who hailed from other languages would know about inputs, but for those who have not, inputs are a way of getting data from the user. You might be wondering what data means. It's just any information, any text, any numbers, etc. For example, my name is a data. Alright, so I could ask the user for their name. And some classic examples of where you take inputs is, say for example, you're signing up for Facebook. So you give your name, it asks for your name, age, etc., birthday, gender, and whatnot. You're inputting it, you're using your keyboard and then directing something into their system. So we're going to be learning something similar, right? But then we're not going to create some cool interfaces. We're going to be interacting with the console. Let's dive in. Right, so what I'm now going to be doing is going to be creating a welcome user screen. It's not really a screen, it's just a message which is going to be displayed in the console. Right, so the system asks you for the name and then you enter it and then it says welcome back user Rahul. So we're going to be doing something similar, right? So first we're going to ask the user to enter in their name, right? So let's do that by print. I'm sure you would know that too. What's your name? Right, so after we have asked that, we need to collect the response given by the user. So we're going to be learning a new function. Okay, it's called readLineSync from the stdin class. Alright, so let's create a variable and then we'll call this name. Right, note that this is a type string. We're taking in a name now. Right, so now let's go ahead and call that method. So how you do that is type as I type stdin, okay, and then dot read line sync and a semicolon at the end. Right, so let's break this down. This is probably the most complex thing you've encountered so far, right? So let's start with this. That's the name of a class. And for those coders who remember, I told you this is not necessary. Alright, but then this is still a possible option for you to call upon methods. Alright, it depends on the case, right? It depends upon how the library is structured. So that's going to be our answer to that. So let's just decipher this phrase, right? So it starts with stdin. How I'd like to remember it is, this stands for standard and that stands for input, standard input, because we're using a library, then dot to access the method, and then we have this method readLineSync, which reads the next line, whatever the user types, right? So first what's going to happen is, here you're going to get a prompt saying what's your name, and then it's going to be asking you for it, and then the user enters it, and after he hits enter, it's going to be stored in this variable called name. Right, now let's go and see what happens next. Right, so now what I want to do is I want to say welcome back user and their name, right? So this is how I'm going to do that. Print welcome back user colon and then name. All right, so let's see how that works. Go ahead and run that. So it's prompting me, right? So let's go ahead and put in my name. So now I press enter and it greets me by saying welcome back user as intended, right? So there's one important thing to note. Here we're using the type string, right? So this also returns the type string because we're reading an entire line. So let me just run that again, right? Say I do space etc. So it's gonna print in the exact same thing, right? So it's not just gonna take out the first word. So you've got to remember that, right? And let's just say you're interested in getting their age, right? So just go ahead and type what's your age, right? And then mind that if you want to get an input of type integer, this is not going to do that. It's still going to return a type name. Never mind, a type string. All right, so what you've got to do is you've got to convert this string to an integer. If you want to do some arithmetic calculations, you can't calculate with strings. All right, so let me just scrape this off and start something, right? So let's just say I want to add two numbers from the user. This is how I'm going to do it, right? So I'll go ahead and say enter in your first number, and then let me just duplicate that second number, and as soon as I ask this question, I want to take in the input bar number 1, shorten that, and stdin dot readline sync. But now this is of type string. I want it to be of type int. So how I'm going to do that is simply enter int dot parse. All right, I know it doesn't make a lot of sense to you, but then in the future I'd be covering a lesson dedicated to this. All right, so just remember this works. All right, so put this inside this. Alright, so parse is a part of the advanced section where I would be covering it in depth. Right here, I'm just using it for the sake of completeness. You know, you've probably got to enter sub numbers, etc., and do some math, but then I don't want you to keep waiting until the end in order to figure that out. So that's why I'm introducing this to you beforehand, just so that it comes in handy. Alright, so I'm going to be doing that again here. Var num2 is equal to int dot parse stdin dot read line sync. All right, so I think I'm just going to explain this for a couple of seconds. So what we're essentially doing is we're calling upon int, then asking it to parse something for us. Parse encoding means to convert, right? Just remember that. We're asking it to convert the type string. This is of type string, right? So if you want a handy way of looking at a code and figuring out whether it spits out a string, int, double, etc., all you've got to see is the thing above it, which says string, right? So that's how you get to know what it returns. So here this thing returns a type string, and you're converting this into integer, and then that's getting inputted into num2, right? So let's just do some standard math where result is equal to num1 plus num2, right? And let's go and print that. Print the result is, and then result. Bam. So let's see if that works. Enter in your first number. Let me go in and type 5 and then 10 here. That's gonna yield me 15, and as intended it did give me out 15. Now this is your basic calculator, right? So this is probably the most awesome code you've seen so far, but believe me, more is yet to come, right? So I've got a challenge for you in this section. Let me get that out. Okay, so that's your challenge. So for this challenge, I want you to refer to your 7th project, which is this, right? Remember you did this, right? So you know you're hard coding a value 5 here, right? Instead of this, I want you to get in an input. So essentially you're asking the user to enter in the length of the side and then computing it, which makes this code even more powerful, right? So that's your assignment. So I strongly encourage you to pause and go ahead and do it, and do refer to this class. It's completely fine, right? So I'll be waiting for you. I hope you've given that a shot. If not, let me show you how. Alright, so let me just grab this code from here, then paste that, and as you see, it says the function pow isn't defined. Let me give you a moment and ask you, do you know why? The answer is we've not yet imported the math class. Not sure if you remember, but we imported this .math to get some library functions from the math package. Let's do the same thing here, then go ahead and do .math. Right, so after you're done with that, you should see there isn't any red lines here, right? So let's go ahead and change that with int.parse stdin, then .readline sync. Right, after you're done with that, you're pretty much done with the code. Now let's go ahead and test that. Before that, I'm just going to comment this out because I don't want to waste my time doing both of these in order to get here. Let's go ahead and run that. Right, if you see, it's not asking me anything. Why is that? Because we haven't prompted anything. But let me just show you guys, this still works, right? Let's just put 1, right? Because we can easily validate that. So 1 square is 1, into 6 is 6, right? So let's just change that to 2, right? 2 square is 4, 6 4 are 24, right? So let's just go add the print statement out for the sake of completeness. Enter in any number, right? So that's going to be a prompt. I know it's not the most descriptive prompt, but it works, right? As you see, it's giving us a prompt now. Go ahead and try that again, and as you see, we've got our desired result. And that's it for this video. See you in the next one.